Eco Money on Money FM 89.3.
Whether you're looking for a city trip, island paradise, or like me, escape to the countryside, an increasing number of travellers have one thing in common: sustainable travel. According to recent research from Booking.com, over 80% of travellers state that sustainable travel is important to them. To get these insights, Booking.com spoke to 31,000 travellers from across the globe, and 75% said that they want to travel more sustainably this year, and over 40% said they would feel guilty if they made less sustainable travel choices. Now, I'm one of them. I like to look for sustainable travel options, but I'm sure you're like me and you might wonder what it takes to incorporate sustainable travel into a hospitality business. Well, I've been travelling around Scotland for the last month and a half, and I spoke with two accommodation providers here who cater to luxury travellers to find out more about their journey. Christina Horspool and her husband purchased a Scottish mansion, Manar house in Aberdeenshire at auction 4 years ago. Christina and her husband have a background in the sustainable energy sector, and the duo have worked to make more sustainable choices when developing the property. Let's hear from Christina now more about her journey.
Our house was built in 1811. Hugh Gordon and Elizabeth Forbes at the time were the couple that were getting married, and Hugh Gordon wanted to create a beautiful mansion for his new wife, as far as I know. He had this built by the architect John Smith, who's very kind of famous architect in Aberdeen. At the time, it was himself and Archibald Simpson who were renowned.
Okay.
When Hugh bought the land, and I think there was a property here before, it was thousands and thousands of acres. So from where the eye can see, now we have 65 acres, which is still many acres to someone who had a very small garden in Berryhill.
And so when you purchased the property, did you foresee it evolving into a business?
The very first viewing, very sad, very tired, beautiful. The bones were all there, and we knew that you needed a lot of vision, a good budget, and to be willing to get your hands dirty. And for us, it was all about time scale as well, in the sense we knew it wasn't going to happen overnight. This was a big project that was going to be over time. And at the time, it was very much the weddings that we were thinking of. It lends itself perfectly with the backdrop, the kind of grandeur, the elegance. But then COVID hit. So our plan evolved, and everything was everybody was looking for self-catered accommodation. And we had this huge wing. We realised very quickly that that was the way to move the project forward faster and to get the business started and trying to get the house working for itself, because it's way too big for a family home. The Gordons, who originally had 10 children, but it had a team of staff, leave on. It's something to be enjoyed and shared with more people and more fun.
And so talk to us about the project now and getting the house up and running, because as you mentioned, you both have backgrounds in energy, you in sustainability. So how has that influenced the way that you renovated this?
I think it's all about consciously curating what we do and how we do it. So budget plays a role, but in terms of Dean's and materials engineering and energy.
Okay.
So for him, quality materials are hugely important, and that really is complementary to what I try to do within sustainability. So we're looking for things that are going to stand the test of time, natural materials, ethically sourced, things that we're not going to have to replace, basically, because it's going to get quite a lot of wear with the type of business it is. But also we have now got quite a big Instagram following. So I think I would have found it anyway, but a really big responsibility to show what you can do. Sometimes I think it's about knowing what the options are, so making those mindful choices and looking into a little bit more where things are coming from, how they've been manufactured, and whether they sit comfortably with your values. And that's basically how we've approached the renovation.
Can you give us some examples? Because obviously when it comes to building, it's not the most sustainable, right, sector, but give us some examples of what you've done here at Manor.
Energy efficiency is tricky. We have it's a listed building, so we have single glazing. We have draft proof them, and we've reinstated all of the shutters. We've now got zoned heating. So when we first moved in, if the heating was on, it was on everywhere throughout the entire.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
So actually now we have full control over every single room, and within each room you can have individual radiators on, which makes a massive difference. We reinstated the wood burning stoves. So there's pros and cons to those, but in a rural location where we have sustainable firewood, basically we've had a heap of storms. We've had loads of trees fell, and actually drying that out and having that wood on hand is a massive kind of bonus for us. In terms of like actually inside the house with energy, because it's tricky, we've gone for everything in the house is re-loved furniture. And we're trying to showcase on Instagram that you don't have to kind of buy almost the fast fashion for the area.
Yeah.
And the quality pieces of furniture, you can either, you can actually get some of it for a steal as well. It's like really well priced. And paints, so looking for like eco-friendly paints and organisations that have got a real focus on sustainability, and not just, I think sustainability is a term that you need to really zone in on what we mean by that. So for me, it's not just about kind of how it's manufactured.
You're looking at the supply chain as well.
Whole supply chain. And you're thinking about kind of labour, like where is it coming from? Who's creating it? How is it created? What are they doing for that entire supply chain? So a couple of really good companies now. So I've been really impressed with like Alternative Flooring, who are really hot on where they source their fibres.
Okay.
And actually there's a big push for national and local British wool.
Yeah. And that said, I mean, you talk about the supply chain, and obviously you've tried to keep the supply chain close, right? I mean, cut as many links as you can. That's what makes it more sustainable. Talk to us about your local partnerships. You've got Highland Cows.
Highland Ponies and Highland Cows. Instead of trying to do that by ourselves, like we're from Birmingham, we're city folk. We love bringing the native breeds back to the estate. We know nothing about them. So actually a lot of what we've done in the house is all about collaboration. So we've collaborated with local farmers. That's who rents the field for the Highlands. We've collaborated with people like the greengrocers. In terms of the design as well, we've collaborated with a number of British design houses. So in COVID, we were trying to renovate this entire property, and an up-and-coming design company, Woodchip Magnolia, and then my family business. And she told me a little bit about her story. I told her a little bit about my story. This was all over Instagram. And we realised that actually by working together collaboratively, we could both benefit. And she has a huge focus on sustainability and British design. And actually throughout the whole house, it's about showcasing design, sustainability, creativity, collaboration, and how that can be powerful and really drive change. I think we get caught up in the systems that we're so used to that we don't realise that actually a simple conversation can kickstart something really fabulous. And I think that's what the social media gets a lot of bad rep. Actually, for us, it's been amazing because we've met so many like-minded people who are trying to do the same thing.
That was Christina Horspool, who's the owner of Manar House in Aberdeenshire. Next, I spoke with Jane Manifold, who's transformed her family farm into a luxurious country escape. I asked Jane about her sustainability journey and future business plans, starting with how she integrates sustainability into the properties at Banchory Farm in Fife.
we moved here about sort of 5 or 6 years ago from Singapore. And one thing I've always been really passionate about is, the environment. And I've been on a massive learning journey to see, obviously taking over my grandmother's farm, which is about a 750 acre farm. We've now got 6 holiday lets. And there's also a big push from the government as well to be having a sustainable business. And there is a sort of a net zero target for businesses. So I explored all the options, what various funding is available, grants, etc. So one of the big things we did was obviously planting trees. We planted 4,500 last year. We have plans to plant more, and they're just really on our most unproductive areas of the farm. So it's a really nice way to kind of bring also, nature. It'll bring birds, insects and all that sort of thing, which will be great. The grass margins around the fields have all been planted with the wildflowers. So we're trying to increase insects and again, more birds, bird cover. And at the moment, they're actually looking fantastic because there's been lots of big white flowers and things like that. We've also, with the holiday lets, because these were old workers' cottages. So back in the old days, this would support, these workers' cottages would have families. There was no insulation whatsoever. And they really hadn't had a lot done to them when we moved here. So we moved in, got a really great building team, and we basically had to gut them, strip them all the way back to the bare stone. We've insulated, so they're making them much more energy efficient. We've insulated under the floor, the walls, the roof. In a couple of our cottages, we put in air source heat plants, which means it kind of uses the air to heat as opposed to using like oil or gas. That's really helped kind of reduce our carbon emissions. And so it's really nice that we can say to guests, when you come and visit us, we're sort of trying to reduce that carbon footprint. So we've got the trees that we've grown, offsetting any travel. And then obviously when you're, needing the heat in winter, you've got the air source heat pump. And that's a very kind of a low carbon option. But there's still so much more that we can do.
And do you find that guests, through some of the queries that you've had, that they're looking for more sustainable holiday lets?
I have to say I possibly haven't so much, but I think it's very much appreciated when guests arrive to know that this is sort of a low. At the same time, there are challenges, to be really honest. Some of the air source heat pumps in the middle of winter, sometimes they're not quite as hot as what it might be if you've got an oil boiler. And so sort of like, guess, look, it just takes a little bit longer for the heat to get up, and there's that kind of patience. And I think when guests know that it is environmentally friendly, they're kind of a lot more understanding with that fact. We've got plans for a big solar project. And we're trying to run all of our properties that are down here. We're staying in the Greaves house. All the electricity will be generated, hopefully, from that solar. Will be really exciting for us, because electricity is actually one of our biggest costs here on the farm.
That's fantastic. And then the cost of implementing solar as well isn't cheap, but it will effectively pay for itself further down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, just on the grants and things, because we were getting grants for air source heat pumps. I think there was grants for solar, but now it's actually such an economical thing for people to do that you don't have those grants. So you just put that upfront investment in, and then sort of after 6 years, hopefully, you should not have, you shouldn't be paying an awful lot for your electricity.
The attention to detail that you have within the properties is quite something.
Well, when we was doing it, we found, again, you sort of look online, there's all these wonderful reclamation yards down south. I think there's one called Vitruvius, and they go to old buildings and they kind of take up floors. And so the parquet we had, I think, came from an old kind of church, and my joiner had to like sand off all, I think it had been sort of stuck down with bitumen. So it took hours for him, but he's done such a nice job. And then this is also reclaimed flooring as well. And I think it is really nice when you are building to try and use old doors. I use old door handles. I buy them on eBay. We do try and do that as much as possible, but it is a little bit the aesthetic that we're going for too. It's a bit more of a rustic luxury look.
And so from solar panels, what else are you working on? Because I know that you're also developing the area behind here. So what's your overall plan and vision for Banchory?
We'd love to make Banchory Farm like a destination, so that when people come here, it's obviously at the moment, I think people come here to rest and relax in really nice, comfortable, well-designed and appointed accommodation. And what we'd like to do is to get people to maybe stay a little bit longer. We want to put in, and we're really about some health and well-being. So we've called it the Wellbeing Garden. That name may change, but we want to have a space where, people could do yoga if they wanted to, and could have groups of people doing yoga. We're going to have sort of like a barbecue communal area, which will be outside. So if you came with a group of friends, because we've now got 6 holiday lets, you could book those meet there as a meeting place.
So even for corporates as well.
Absolutely. Well, that's definitely another area that I'd like to look into in the future, trying to bring corporates here. Hope to have a sauna with an ice bath. That's a really big thing here actually in Scotland. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah.
I think there's so many health benefits to that as well. And then we call it the old grain store, but it used to be an old coach house. We'd like to make that kind of more into an event space. Again, it can be for small weddings, I think up to maybe 100, 120 people, and or, corporate events. So that's sort of what we're thinking. And, it's just working on these projects. We kind of do it year by year. We sort of set a few goals. We've just finished 2 houses this year. I think we maybe take a break, but we hope to get started on the Wellbeing Garden next March or April.
So when do you see all of this being ready?
Oh, good question. So, 2020. Look, I think realistically, the Wellbeing Garden, I would hope would be ready by the end of 2026. And then I think the event space, all of that, probably 2027, 2028. It is a bit, we are still really small business, like I said, really focus on trying to do those kind of environmental initiatives that are going to also be really sustainable for our business, like the solar. We also have to put in electric car charging points for guests. We get a lot of guests with electric cars. So we'd like to do that as part of kind of, this wellbeing space and everything else that we're trying to do.
That was Jane Manifold, owner of Banchory Cottages in Fife, Scotland. So what do you think? Is sustainable travel important to you? Drop us a text and let us know. 88550893. You've been listening to Eco Money on Money FM 89.3. I'm Rachel Kelly, bringing you a little piece of the Scottish countryside in this episode. I'll be back with you next week for more eco news and views, so keep it with us here on Money FM 89.3.